What's going on, y'all? I'm Mark C,
And I'm Mark K.
and this is the Mark Suck Show.
All right. So today, I guess we're talking about the recent comments that have been made by one Nicholas J. Cannon. I don't know if that's his real middle name, and it just sounds right.
What's wrong with Don't start your nonsense already, man. It's
and
early.
and one Deshaun Jackson and Steven Jackson. So, and I'm just going to start with a question for all of you. Was Terry Crews right? Think about that for a second. Terry Crews made a comment about black supremacy. He said that that in this fight for equality, we need white people and we need all people of all races. Essentially, is what he was trying to say. Not what came out, but that's what he was trying to say. And he's saying like being gatekeepers of what's allowed and what's allowed to be said creates black supremacy. Now, the way he went about it, what he actually said, I don't agree with. But with the recent comments of one of Deshaun Jackson, Steven Jackson, and Nick Cannon, you start to wonder: is there a chance or an idea of black supremacy being a thing? Like who people like is that a general consensus thing? Because we already know that there's people like um, like Umar Johnson and um, and Minister Farrakhan who feel these ways, and maybe I don't know much about the 5%ers, but maybe them as well. But um, but we already know what's going on, where those type of movements have their black supremacist teachings in it. But those are a smaller percentage of people, but it seems like it's growing. And I really wonder, was Terry Crews right?
Here's the problem. The first problem that I see with this situation is that not only are people speaking on everyone's behalf, like people with a platform, like a Nick Cannon, like a Deshaun Jackson, like people who are out there, they're speaking on behalf of a whole people.
Right.
So when somebody watches popular media and they're consuming these people, they're seeing uh, Nick Cannon per se as someone who's speaking for the whole black community, and nobody is really like able to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I don't agree with this guy who doesn't have a platform that's equal." You know, so automatically it's assumed that's a thing. But I'm here to say that no, it's not really a thing.
But I mean, really though, is it though? Because we see the comments of the people that's like, "Oh, Nick shouldn't apologize. Deshaun shouldn't apologize." But that's real though. That's true though. And like to a degree, some of that I don't know. Like
All
some of
right,
that.
all right. So wait a minute. Then we have to get into what Nick Cannon said, because if you're going to say that you agree with him, you have to understand what he's saying. He's saying that people who don't have the melanin in their skin
Are less than,
are less than.
which is not true. Like that's just not true. Like and apply that to yourself because once upon a time, not once upon a time, but people still believe that people with melanin, us,
Are
are
less
less than.
than. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
we don't take kindly to that. So why is it okay for Nick to say that about someone else? Like why is it okay for him to reverse it? Like hurt people. But
That's dope.
like that's not what we out here to do. We out here for equality, not to you took a jab at me for years and years and years. I'm taking jabs now. You know what I'm saying? Like Nick also said Nick also said that people from the Caucasus Mountains they are they they were in a savage lifestyle and now that savageness is still in them And he was basically attributing that to all people. Like he could have said that about like this was something in the past or whatever, blah 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 blah. But he's attributing to all of white people today. Meanwhile, I see a group of white mothers locked arm in arm in front of protesters, being the shield from the police. That doesn't seem like savagery to me. That seems like compassion.
Here's the thing. Anytime that you put a stipulation on any group of people and say this is what they are, you're going to be wrong. Because nobody is the same. Nobody has a behavior that everybody behaves like. I grew up with white people that in my neighborhood that we called them cool or whatever.
Right.
And they acted just like everybody else who in the black community acts. You know, and we didn't see them as any different from us. At the same time, I've been friends with other white people that weren't from my neighborhood and they didn't act like that. You are a product of your environment, not a product of who you are, what race you're born into.
Yeah, your race has nothing to do with how you act,
Like,
and that's the pro. And these are the problems with some of Nick's comments. Now, Nick might have been feeling the moment. He might have got caught up in when who he was talking to at the time because he was talking to Professor Griff, who was a former member of Public Enemy, who was actually kicked out of Public Enemy for being too extreme and having anti-Semitic views. Funny enough, so that's weird, right? Like, so
is it weird? Is it?
no, I mean, like, it's only weird to me because I don't know that to be Nick's character.
Here's my thing. He could have been pandering to his guests, but in doing so, how many times is he going to open his mouth and ruin a part of his career
Well,
with these type of statements?
well, and I would say this: I don't, I don't attribute this to this being who Nick is. I truly don't. Nick is a very intelligent man. Nick is one of the brightest stars that we have. And he might dress like a cornball. He might have corny jokes, and he definitely can't rhyme. But that boy can.
Wait, I'm a gigolo wasn't a hit.
I'm a gigolo, spending lots of dough. You can
That's my jam. Um, so, yo, but look, here's the thing though, man, for real. Nick put so many people on. Nick has
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
different businesses. Nick, anything he's touched up until this point has turned into gold. Like, truthfully, like Nick is a very intelligent dude. He's the type of dude that we definitely need in the community.
Hmm.
And Nick seems he seems to be very remorseful of his words, and he seems to be to understand that the things that he did was incorrect. What I but what I don't like is that people that are saying, "Well, you shouldn't have to apologize." Nah, man, a lot of that stuff was too far gone. Like they saying Deshaun Jackson shouldn't have had to apologize. Nah, man, too far gone. Saying that saying that the Jewish people would swindle America, like that's rough, man. Those are rough statements to make.
Like you said, hurt people hurt people. So we are as a black community, we are marginalized. We are talked down upon. We have been preyed upon even in this country. And you talking about Jewish people who also went through the same type of tribulation and turmoil that we did.
Yeah.
Now, what what makes you say that their suffering doesn't matter as much as ours? Or or that you're better than them because you have darker skin? It doesn't make any sense.
Nah, you not. We're not better than anyone because they have darker skin. But I mean, if you really like, I mean, if we really would have had this conversation, like, because I've heard on Philadelphia radio, like where Jewish people tried to downplay the N word, and because they're like, oh, we've been slaughtered, 6 million people died in the internment camps and all that stuff, and like the N word is just it's just the N word. Well, no, sir. Like, so it's not just on Deshaun. This is just the way that people on a person to person level feel, where they
Yeah.
feel as though somehow their personal pain trumps your personal pain. And really, like, if we really want to get into it, like 400 years, you can't equate 13 years of tragedy to 400 plus and whatever else. Like, there's so much going on, and we don't know your full history, and you don't know our full history, because we had to live ours, you have to live yours. The only thing we could do is educate each other on what's going on and be open minded about it.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that Deshaun can do is be open minded to learn and educate others on what's going on our end. And what disappoints me and what upsets me, because sometimes maybe the ignorant side of me feels understands certain things that Deshaun Jackson said. Like, you know what I mean? The ignorant side of me, or maybe the hurt side of me, is like, yeah, I feel that way too. But I also know not to speak that way or whatever like that. Or I also know, like, I know where that comes from. It comes from a hurt place, and I need to check that with real information before I ever voice anything like that.
I will say this: coming from where I come from in Philadelphia, I was raised to believe that white people were against me, not by my family per se, but by my surrounding community and by my friends and just a lot of the people that I was around were perpetuating that lie that white people were completely against me. Then I ventured out. I started meeting new people. I started to understand that maybe it's just person to person basis. Just because you've been discriminated against by one person doesn't mean that all white people are like this. And I had to learn that. And some of my best friends in the world are white people. That I found them to be trustworthy. I found them to be uh, good people and like loving and just a lot of things that I didn't expect because of what I was taught.
Yeah.
But knowing better and having maturity, it allows me to say, okay, not all people are like this. Just like I've seen racism in my own community. My grandfather was he did not like white people, and he came from the deep south, and he experienced that type of segregation where you know I can understand him not liking white people because of what happened to him. And it happened so many times that it started to create a stigma that stuck with him. And he
Well,
tried to teach me that, but me coming from Philadelphia, in the day and time that I come from, I just was like, my white friends aren't like that.
but I'm not also, but also with that being said, there's a lot of good people, but there's also those bad people that reinforce the stereotypes here and there. And some of us have experienced that, and we've fallen into that trap of feeling that way about these people. But that's the point. The point is that we are to remember that not everybody's like that, and we just have to approach things maturely and understand, like, this is this happened to me with these people. I will be cautious and wary, but I will be open minded. Like, that's pretty much, we can't stop being open minded to other people. We can't close ourselves off, and we can't put each other in the box.
So now Nick Cannon, I'm gonna say one of his quotes from Twitter because I want you to understand where he's at right now mentally. Uh, he says, "I hurt an entire community and it pained me to my core. I thought it couldn't get any worse. Then I watched my own community turn on me and call me a sellout for apologizing."
Right.
So he apologized, and then they call him a sellout. But isn't that perpetuating the same racism that we're trying to fight against?
Yeah, man. We like Nick recognized where he went wrong. Deshaun is recognizing where he went wrong. Steven Jackson, he's apologized for the things that he said. These are people that are recognizing what's going on and where they may have made a mistake in their wording or may have said some things that hurt people and they said it out of ignorance or possible ignorance. So they're they're basically trying to be open minded and trying to learn and just trying to be together, and you can't call somebody a sellout for that because it's not, they didn't stop being for black people. They didn't all of a sudden say, yo, kill us all, like black people ain't shit. So they not a sellout. They not selling no black person out. You can never call Nick a sellout, as many people that he put on and is trying to make a better way for. Like you can't call that man a sellout.
Regardless of anything, he still lost his position with Viacom.
Right.
They didn't give it back. So if he sold out, I, selling out is when you do something because you know you're going to get something in return. He didn't get anything in return by apologizing.
I mean, but somebody might also say to you that maybe he's doing that in hope of getting something in return. But that's not what it is. Nick truly like understand that when Nick said forget Viacom, this, that, and the third, is because after his comments, he reached out to them to figure out like, well, what let's talk. What did I say wrong? How like let's get to a place of understanding and maybe, but they wouldn't return. They wouldn't return any comments, anything. They just did away with them. And that's why Nick said, nah, like forget Viacom, they trying to do this, they trying to do me dirty, blah 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 blah. Which is, I feel that because here's here's where I'm jealous of other people, and I'm just going to be honest for something of me. Here's where like there's a bit of jealousy there. Like when when Nick Cannon offend somebody else, things got shaken real fast. Before we even, for me, before I even heard what he said, he was already gone. Like I heard that he was gone, and then I heard what he said. Like you know what I'm saying? Like when Deshaun Jackson made his tweets or whatever, like so it got blown up by so many different people. It's not like I read what he said first and then I saw like no, that thing was blown up by the next day, and and it was like Deshaun Jackson's career life is in jeopardy, blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, I watch my president say whatever he wants about black people. I watch Tucker Carlson say whatever he wants on Fox News.
Oh
I
Lord.
watch, you know what I'm saying? I watch so many people do whatever, say whatever, particularly do whatever to black people, and nothing happens. We're still fighting, protesting in the streets, but you do something to somebody else, seemingly, and I will use the word seemingly, it gets shaken. Everybody starts moving. Everybody starts moving. Action happens very quickly. It seems like action happens very quickly for other people, but action doesn't happen that quickly for us. And that honestly sets in jealousy for me because I wish that we had that level of ability to where something can happen to us and people care enough that that action is taken immediately. Like that's where I'm looking for my equality. I'm looking for my fairness, and that's why when people like that's why it creates that level of stigma. Like, well, Jewish people have all the power because he said one they say one anti-Jewish comment and you're gone, but you can say nigga to the high heavens, to the cows come home. What's going to happen? Like that. So things like that, I understand how we get here, but we still have to work from a place of equality, and like just like we have to be mindful what we're asking for, we have to give. Like in order to like that's the burden we bear as black people, and it's the burden we've always bore. Like, yo, we can't make a bunch of mistakes. Like, all of us was raised that way. Like, yo, you black, you can't make a bunch of mistakes.
Right.
A lot of times you got one time, and that's it. Like, that's how we was raised, and that's the life that we know. And unfortunately, it shows through everywhere. It is showing through in the Nick Cannon situation. And that's what infuriated Nick because it smacked him in the face. He made a mistake. He said something he shouldn't have, and then it smacked him in the face. Yeah, you black. One time and it's over. You build up wilding out for 15 years or whatever. Longest running show on MTV at this point, and the best show on MTV. Only show that people really are checking for, but that don't matter. You black and you messed up. It's over.
Now, how many other people have made these type of mistakes and came back from it after an apology? I mean, honestly, do I think he needed to apologize? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
When you make a mistake, you apologize. Period. What he said was hurtful. What he said was perpetuating racism amongst the black community. And he did not speak on everybody's behalf. Now, on the flip side of that, he apologized. Are they willing to let that man live now? To let that man make gainful employment and continue to do the good work that he was already doing?
Well, I'm gonna say this, man. You're not shutting down Nick, regardless, dog. That's just how that's
We're
gonna
not
go.
gonna let it rock.
But anyway, I don't have much left. Do you?
No, I mean, I believe we said what we needed to say. I would say more than just stay woke. Do your research. Understand the knowledge is out there if you need it about what is going on with our people and what is going on with other people as well. Don't think that we're the only ones who suffer. I know in India right now there's a caste system where you can't make it above poor class if you poor.
Mexican children are still being locked up in cages in the U.S. Mexican children go missing from these cages with nowhere to be found magically. Like, these things are happening, and it's not just happening to us.
All over the world, people are suffering. And it's just a matter of looking from somebody else's perspective, having empathy. Empathy it will go a long way, putting yourself in the other man's shoes. And I know for a fact that the white man is not the devil. People are evil inherently, and people will do what you allow them to get away with.
Uh,
That's all I gotta say about it.
and that's all I gotta say as well. We're working for equality, not supremacy. Terry Crews wasn't right, and let's make sure that we keep it that way. I'm Mark K.
I'm Mark C.
Peace.